So I'd like to talk to you about cannabis. Let's just do it. Let's get right into it. 10 states still ban cannabis. Three of our four neighbors have legal cannabis, recreational, medicinal. Obviously comes with decriminalization. $92 million is what our legislature's own legislative services agency projected as an annual revenue that would come from cannabis, from legalization, regulation, and taxation. That's a number. That's not even including the number of individuals, Hoosiers, that are going across state lines and spending their hard-earned tax dollars on another state's product. Indiana is an outlier, and it's costing us. While our neighbors have moved forward with sensible reforms, we still jail people for personal use. If you are a veteran and you fight in Afghanistan, Iraq, overseas, anywhere you're at, maybe you weren't even in combat, you come home and you decide that instead of prescription opioids, cannabis is going to be the best route for you. You make that decision with your doctor, and then you get stopped on the way home from wherever you're going. Maybe the doctor's office, who knows? You get stopped and you can be prosecuted. And it's not just a slap on the wrist. This is life-changing stuff. Could be, depending on what county you're in right now, depending on the police officer, and depending on the legal process. You have all those variables in the balance. Yet you went and fought for your country, and you're an adult, making adult decisions. But state of Indiana is going to tell you they know what's better. They know what's better between you and your doctor. Doesn't matter. State of Indiana has the answer. The answer is no. So this leaves veterans and other patients without a legal access to medicine that they need. And as your state senator, should I be given the honor of having such a title and getting through this primary and the general election season, that'd be something else, wouldn't it? I would sure be excited about that. But I would advance some practical reform measures. And I'm not saying that tomorrow we're going to go full recreational by any means. Although that may sound like a viable and good option, logistically, that'd be a nightmare. You know why? Well, go ahead and guess. Yeah, you're exactly right. We have no regulatory framework in place. We have no licensing requirements. We have nothing. We have no framework, regulatory compliance framework in place to support such a program. Indiana has no cannabis policy, and I don't mean that Indiana's policy is bad. I mean, Indiana literally has no plan, no commission, no regulatory framework, no agency, nothing overseeing it. If the federal government rescheduled cannabis tomorrow, which, President Trump has already set in motion, Indiana would be scrambling to build a regulatory agency from scratch, while Michigan and Illinois have programs that have been running for years. So that's not fiscal conservatism. That is administrative negligence. I have a plan to fix that, and I'm going to walk through it with you. So let's start with the federal piece, right? Because this is where the political ground has shifted in a way that gives Indiana a real opening. As I stated, President Trump signed an executive order directing the DEA to proceed with rescheduling cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And when that's finalized, cannabis will no longer be in the same legal category as heroin. The primary federal justification for Indiana's total prohibition goes away. So this bill would create a Indiana Cannabis Commission right now, before rescheduling is complete. Doesn't legalize anything. There's commissioners, 7 commissioners confirmed by the Senate, with a built-in federal trigger. So the moment the DEA finalizes, the commission's authorized to begin issuing licenses. No additional act of the General Assembly is needed. Think of it like the Indiana Gaming Commission. Indiana built regulatory architecture before it expanded gaming. It's the same play. We're going to be ready before the moment arrives. And here's the fiscal picture. And I want to be specific because I think you all deserve real numbers. The Legislative Services Agency, LSA, so Indiana's own nonpartisan office, projected that a cannabis program would generate between 46 and 92 million annually in a tax revenue of 15% excise tax on that. So while simultaneously leaving 46 to 92 million on the table, money isn't disappearing. Indiana residents are spending it. They're spending it in Michigan. They're spending it in Illinois, Ohio. Every dollar spent at a dispensary across the state line is a dollar Indiana's property taxpayers, school kids, veterans never see. So I have a model that has 35% going to property tax relief, 25% local government, 20% to K-12, 10% to veterans, mental health, 10% to drug treatment. There's something just kind of there for everybody. There's a pie here, is what I'm saying, and we can split that pie. I'm not married to any of these numbers. These are just a starting off point. So it's a moral issue, too. It's a moral issue. We have over 400,000 veterans, many of whom have PTSD, TBI. The VA has prescribed them opioids, but they've decided that cannabis works better. They sleep better. It's better for pain. They're not at risk for being addicted to opioids. So this and this would have a specific provision. A letter of referral from the VA would be an automatic qualification for a patient registry. Automatic, no hoops. If the VA says you need it, Indiana says you can have it. Employer protections, low income fee waivers, telehealth certification for rural veterans who can't reach a provider. Someone who's served this country that comes home with PTSD and found something that helps them sleep should not be arrested. That's not a liberal position. That is a human one, right? And so here's the full legislative architecture. And I want to be precise about this because I think voters deserve a senator who can tell you exactly what is in the bill and what the regulatory framework looks like. So you have we'll call it tier 1 is the regulatory framework, the commission. And I think based on a federal trigger, that's the most passable piece that we have. You can't credibly argue that Indiana should not have a plan in place should that that federal trigger happen. Decriminalization of simple possession. This is an opportunity for us to stop putting people in jail for just a simple possession. Tier 3. This is the telehealth. This is the automatic VA qualification. And then Tier 4, full out recreational at 15% of an excise tax. Doesn't begin for 90 days until after the DEA is ready and rescheduled it. So that's 4 different policy proposals. I would put them all in one omnibus bill, right? That's one strategy that we have. Do you file them all as one big bill, or do you have them as separate? Well, I'd have them as one bill, one omnibus bill, and then I'd break them up as well. I'd have individual, 4 pieces of legislation there, because each tier that I just explained builds on the infrastructure of the tier before it. So the Cannabis Commission, runs the medical program, and then the adult use market in the full recreational scenario. And so Indiana is going to have a cannabis policy eventually. The federal government's moving, our neighbors are moving, and the question is whether Indiana is going to be ready, or whether we're going to spend years after federal rescheduling arguing about which agency should oversee something, while Michigan has had a decade start on us. I spent over 11 years in the Indiana Senate writing and analyzing legislation. I know how to build these regulatory frameworks. I'm running for this seat because Indiana deserves a senator, and Senate District 1 deserves a senator that can show up on day one with bill language, a plan for how to move it through the chamber where the other party has a supermajority. It's comprehensive, it's sequence, it's morally sound, it's morally grounded. This isn't ideology, this is competent government. Thank you for your time, and I would welcome any questions that you might have.